Hey everyone, it's Cameron McNamee. I'm the Director of Policy and Communications for the board. We're going to give everyone a few more minutes and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So we'll get started around 2:15. Thank you. Hi everyone, we're going to get started at 2:15. I just want to let everybody know that if you go to pharmacy.ohio.gov and then scroll down to the recent updates section, we have the RFA2 presentation, as well as there's a frequently asked questions document that has now been posted. It's also available under the board meeting information under the meeting documents now. So just everybody, so everyone's aware of that. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our media availability. We're going to go ahead and get started. We asked for people to RSVP, and so we have a list of about 5 or 6. So we'll go down that and do questions, and then we'll also open it up for anybody else who's on the call that maybe didn't have opportunity to RSVP or ask any questions. Again, my name is Cameron McNamee. I'm the Director of Policy and Communications for the State Board of Pharmacy. And we'll go ahead and get started with Danny Eldridge from Hannah News Service.
Thanks for taking my question. So I guess I'm just curious about the number. So where does the 1,200 number come from, and how forward looking is this? Like, is this going to be enough dispensaries?
Yeah, sure. So the 1,200 number was sort of it was an attempt to strike a middle ground between dispensary viability and patient access. So the 1,200 is using all registered patients, not all active patients. So it's important to remember that we built in room to grow by not incorporating just active patients, but by looking at everybody that is registered in those dispensary districts. And so 1,200 was sort of a metric that we developed to try and balance the viability of a dispensary, make sure that it can operate successfully and provide services to patients. So that was part of it, as well as, again, the 1,200 number was to try and equalize access across the dispensary districts. As you've seen in the presentation that's also available on the website, that number certainly indicates that there are certain districts around the state that have a high volume of patients, of registered patients, compared to those that don't. And so that 1,200 number was an attempt to strike a balance between viability and patient access. And that's why we went ahead in using that metric. All right, and we'll have time for follow-ups too, but I want to get to everybody that at least RSVP'd. Kevin Berry, News 5.
Hi. First, is there any chance you might be able to turn a camera on, just because we were hoping to use it? Yeah, I appreciate it. That just helps us out quite a bit. And then I guess kind of the question is, what is the importance of looking to the neighboring states like Pennsylvania and Michigan? We've been comparing Ohio's program specifically to Pennsylvania for a bit, and kind of pointing out how it looked like some of the numbers access-wise were lagging behind. Why was it important to match and at least per capita kind of surpass Pennsylvania? And kind of what does that tell patients about where the board's head's at about access to medical cannabis?
Sure. So the look at the population of this state is a metric that is required to be assessed as part of the statute. And so in looking at the population of the state, one of the easiest ways to sort of see where we ranked compared to other states was to do those comparison with our bordering states. Pennsylvania is a good metric because, again, that program began roughly around the same time as Ohio's did. I believe it had a few months on us because they were able to promulgate emergency rules to stand up their program. But looking at that Pennsylvania comparison, it's helpful for us as a new medical marijuana, relatively new medical marijuana program, to sort of set ourselves to look at those similar states with similar patient populations and similar times when the program became up and running, to be able to see where we compare with those other states. So looking at the per capita analysis, it was helpful for us in order for us to realize or to meet the requirements of the statute to look at the population of this state and then try and compare it to others. Folks might have.
Yeah, what is the soonest? I know the rules still have to go through JCAR. What is the timeline on that? What is the soonest that could that you could have the RFA go out?
So I think we're looking. Okay, we'll move on to Carrie Ghost with Columbus Business First.
Hey there, this is Carrie. There are, just looking today at the list on the website of dispensaries with certificates of operation, I count 50.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that there are 7 provisional licenses that have not proceed, after what, 2-3 years have not gotten to the certificate of operation point. And I know that 3 of those were Harvest of Ohio. So my question is, what is the status, especially of Harvest and of the other 4? And is there any action the board will be taken to get those dispensaries moving, get those licensees to open up, or revoke licenses for lack of progress? And how do you expect to, obviously you'll have to get a lot of new companies if there's a 5 per limit. So how do you expect to get 73 new dispensaries running when even the first batch are not all complete?
So in terms of the Harvest, obviously we issued a settlement agreement with them, and so that they're able to address some of their underlying issues with getting operational. In terms of Harvest's timeline, we are working with them. They have not requested final inspection, but we work with all of our licensees to make sure that they have everything that they need to get up and running. The one thing I will say is I believe we have 52 operational dispensaries, not 50 out of 57. So just want to clarify that. I will say that this RFA process was certainly, first process was a learning process for us. And so in our updated rules, we do give dispensaries a little bit more runway in terms of when they have to be open, but we also put in some additional requirements on them about regular status reports. So we have a better understanding of where they are in this process. So we've learned a lot from the first RFA process, and our goal right now is to stand up those remaining dispensaries as quickly as they can get stood up in order to, again, promote access across the state. So I don't envision us taking any action yet, but we're hopeful that they will certainly recognize that we've been very patient with them, and that our hope is that they will get everything they need to get up and running, shortly.
Thank you.
Sure. And Laura Hancock with Cleveland.com. Do we have Laura? I don't see Laura. Allie, why don't you maybe send Laura an email and just ask her if she's going to be joining us. All right, so I see folks have some hand raised, so I'll just go down. I believe we have Stormy Clark. Do you want to identify where you're from and ask your question?
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Stormy Clark, and I live in Lawrence County, Ohio.
Okay.
I'm in a very particular spot. I've had my card for 3 years, and every time that I drive, it's a 210-mile trip drive to get to the dispensary, because there's no dispensaries nowhere close to my location in Lawrence County. I know that I heard someone speak earlier of a harvest. Now, I actually can drive by and see a harvest grow facility that's in my area. But do you know, or can you tell me maybe when we might be able to get something in our location? Not to keep going, but I do know that West Virginia is going legal. At the border of West Virginia, Cabell County, just in the county beside of me, there will be 10 dispensaries in Cabell County, all within less than 15 minutes drive of my home, but I'm still having to make this 2-hour drive. Also, while I have you on the phone, I fall into another bad situation is State Route 7, the road to the closest dispensary is closed, which makes me now have to be an illegal patient because I have to drive through the state of West Virginia. I have no choice. In order for me to go to the closest dispensary, that is the detour. It takes me out of Ohio into West Virginia. So I really want to know when there's going to be something closer to me, because it's hard for me to be able to afford medication, let alone all the gas for the drive, the wear and tear of my vehicles.
Sure.
He's done a report. I've had a busted windshield and a tire, and it's just a lot. I can't afford my medication, and it is killing me driving. But if I was still on pharmaceuticals, they're a dime a dozen. They're everywhere.
Yes. So we can, if you want to email, and what I can do is I can shoot you, because you're on the Teams. I'll shoot my email. We can maybe talk offline about your access issues. What I can say is, at least in your region and the surrounding dispensary areas, there's at least there's at least one more allocated in your specific region, and then there's more in the surrounding areas. So we do recognize that there needs to be, having just one in a region makes it difficult, particularly when those regions are 4 counties. So we understand that, and so the plan would be to add several dispensaries to that area in the surrounding counties. So we do recognize that as being one of the lessons learned from our first RFA process. But in terms of the status update for some of the other dispensaries closer to you, Allie from our office will shoot you her email, and then maybe we can talk offline about the progress that they're making in your specific area and any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, no problem. All right, Jackie, I see you have your hand up. Jackie Borchardt, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, had to find the unmute button. So the first time that you guys did this, there were some very small gaps in the scoring between applicants. And if you're going to go ahead with a lottery where you meet qualifications, I'm just picturing a scenario where someone might have 1 point that puts them in the lottery. Are you guys changing or plan to change the scoring so that it's more of a meets the qualifications versus merit? You were half a point off from making it.
Yes, so the plan would be to certainly look at setting some qualifying requirements that are in both statute and rule, and requiring the dispensaries to clearly, meet these certain requirements, not necessarily by scoring them, but making sure it's almost like a pass-fail requirement. And so the goal of that would certainly be to reduce, the overall goal of the lottery is to, one, streamline the award process so that, again, we're not having to go down and look at, someone has 181 versus someone has 180.5. And we feel like that will result in a fair, more streamlined award process. So again, that's why we're hopeful with this new system that we're in the process of developing, that we'll be able to turn around provisional licenses much quicker and get those dispensaries in those regions established much faster than we did before, and with fewer lawsuits as well, because we've learned specifically that it's a very litigious process, that scoring and someone's opinion of someone's quote unquote security plan might be different depending on the scorers. And so we feel like we have very solid rules on the operation of medical marijuana that would make any dispensary that complies with those rules to be safe. And so we feel like going to more of a qualified lottery process will certainly help speed up the award process and reduce litigation moving forward. Ohio Cannabis Live. Anthony, you want to go ahead? Yes.
I thought I was going to have that same nightmare I had last time I was on here with y'all, and you couldn't hear me. Good afternoon, sir. It is afternoon. And, thanks for being here. But one thing I want to just say, we are broadcasting this live on YouTube and Facebook, and a lot of patients are really confused about what's happening with the program in regards to this expansion that you guys had a meeting about. I just got your email kind of like at the end of it, so I think it would be important for people who are watching this live right now to kind of provide them an update as far as what you guys are actually proposing to do, because some people in here, they know exactly what just happened, but there are a lot of people watching here that don't have any idea what's happening. And so I think it's important. We're looking at just a screen here that says State of Ohio Pharmacy Board RFA2 proposal. No one really knows what that really means other than the folks that are already familiar with that type of language. So that makes it kind of hard. And we would like to see some type of organizational chart that shows which company owns which dispensary. We know that there were several changeovers where, for example, Cresco purchased 4 Verdants, but they left 1 Verdant available. And then they own another dispensary. And it's very confusing for patients to follow which company is in charge of what. And then there's other dispensaries who are, as we've seen, advertising that, maybe they're going to have a dispensary open soon, or we see a building with a sign on it, like in Columbus, for example, and we don't really know. How long is it going to be before Strawberry Fields in Columbus opens? We really don't have no way to know. And so I really just think it's important for me to say it right here to you as being a director of communications. Please communicate to us all right now where we stand. How many licenses are going to be available? How far is this program going to expand? And what is the science behind that? What type of analytical data? Was this done by surveys? Was this done by just information you're getting from your systems? How did you come to the conclusion of this total? And then also, for people who don't understand what a lottery system is, could you please explain that just briefly so people understand, what lottery we're talking about? Because we're not talking about the one where you win millions of dollars, right?
Sure. So, great question. And hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
With the PowerPoint presentation, and this is all available online. But just to give you a quick overview of it, looking at factor 2, the number of patients seeking to use medical marijuana. So we used all registered. We used a robust or a more broad assessment for registered patients. So and rather than active patients, and that gives us, that allows us to identify patients that may have registered, may have either never purchased or purchased once and are not active patients, but maybe that there's demand there because of issues relating to price or lack of access. So we tried to use a larger number than just active patients to identify.
Okay.
And then the last factor is geographic distribution. So here you see in this map, we have 3 dispensary districts that have none. And that's only because there weren't any applications that were either submitted, or there weren't any ones that were viable applications in these dispensary districts. So none were awarded. And so, again, if you look at all 3 of these factors, it's clear that we need to expand the number of dispensaries. And that's basically what the board did. So they looked at it by dispensary patients per district per dispensary. So by breaking it down, the number of patients per district, and this is all registered patients, divided by the number of dispensaries, including PDLs, because we're hopeful that the PDLs will get up and running soon. You see a lot of deviation or variation in different regions for patient demand. So what we decided to do is, okay, let's set a metric that if they fall above that 1,200 patients per number of dispensaries per district, then we would add more dispensaries to get them below that number. And that's what gives you, so it's kind of explained here. If you look at Northwest 4, they currently have 1 dispensary, but they have 2,008 patients per district, because they only have 1 dispensary. So that would then necessitate an addition of another dispensary to get them below 1,200 to about 1,004 patients. in that district. So it is an expansion of the program from its current approved number of licenses, 57, to a total of adding 73, which would get you to a total of 130 130 dispensaries total after the second RFA process is issued. So the second round of applications for dispensaries go out.
Okay, all right. So realistically, how long of a timetable can patients expect? Is this probably something we won't see till next year, or is this something we'll start to see happening rather quickly?
Well, the hope is that we'll get the rules finalized and have, again, the lottery system is intended so that we don't have to spend weeks and months scoring every little nuanced issue related to, on their application. So we can't, so it's really intended to allow us to say, okay, do they meet the minimum qualifications, or do they meet not minimum qualifications, do they meet qualifications to operate a dispensary safely based on their application, yes or no? And then they'll be entered into a lottery in that dispensary district they will then get selected from that lottery process. So the goal is to ensure that we would have a quick turnaround time once the application process is open, and the goal is to get them, get those PDLs out there as quickly as possible. And that is our intention using this new lottery process that we discussed at the board meeting today.
Okay, well, thank you. And the last question I want to ask is, are multi-state operators such as Cresco, are they still capped at a 5 dispensary limit, or has that limit been expanded?
No, they're still capped at 5. And they're also prevented from owning more than 66% in any district. Okay. And that's really to promote competition within the districts as well. In the attempt to get a reduction in price, which is certainly a criticism of the program.
Okay, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for taking my questions. And I'm going to have to press you because you guys never answered my email. What happened with the rules that were proposed last year that were stuck in CSI? What happened with those? How come those never got addressed?
Those are we can. There may be a more nuanced question because there are some that are still in CSI.
Okay.
So why don't you, in the meeting chat, Allie has provided her information. She can give you an update on where those rules are in the process.
All right, wonderful. All right, that's all from me, and I'll turn it over to whoever else.
Let's see. Any other hands up? Oh, Danny, did you have another question?
Yes, I do. So I'm a little confused. You talk about how you guys kind of underestimated how many patients there would be going in. So how are you estimating how many patient growth? Are you assuming it's going to continue being 7,500 a month or whatever? I think is what you said, or higher or lower? How does that factor into this decision?
Yeah, so I think it gets back, believe you're talking about how, we're seeing that growth in the program. Part of the challenge of this is obviously the program is going to continue to grow, but decisions need to be made about program expansion. So, we did use sort of a snapshot in time, but what we try to do there is, again, take all registered, not all active patients. Really try and build in some capacity for the program to grow, knowing that maybe not all patients are coming back, maybe patients tried it and they didn't like it. And so we tried to build in some capacity there. But as we talked about at the board meeting, we can certainly review, at a shorter interval, looking at the patient data. But we feel like this is a good first step to expanding the program, to try and address access and cost issues, active patients as well, to try and look at where demand is.
Thanks, Cameron. I appreciate it.
Sure. Anyone else
Cameron,
on the call?
Laura Hancock is on the phone.
Oh, hey, Laura. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I came on here late, so if you've already answered this, I apologize beforehand. But The July 1, when they were talking about, is July 1 just when they would have some of the proposed mapping things in place, and then they've got to go through CSI to change actually how they would score applications for dispensaries? Is that the idea? I mean, what was the July 1 thing in terms of the future?
So I think when we were talking about the rules that we need to get in place, those rules we expect to have finalized by actually end of May, beginning of June. So you may have been on the meeting longer than I have, so I'm not quite sure what the July 1 date you're referring to is, but all of the rules that are needed to implement the RFA 2 proposal will hopefully be in place no later than the end of May, beginning of June, recognizing we want to be able to move this process forward as quickly as we can.
Cool, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Nothing? All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, my email's on the media avail notice. So if you want to shoot those over to me, we're around all afternoon for follow-ups. So thanks everybody for joining us, and I look forward to reading all your stories. Bye.
My audio. All right, so yeah, I'm not gonna be here long because I really hadn't planned on being on here, but so I'd love to know what you guys thought about all that. We got a lot of information out of that meeting. That's probably that's one of the best meetings we've had so far. I should have went through that organizational chart that I got from Discord, to see what they had to say about that. But we'll work on that. We'll work on that. So I'll go ahead and turn on the live comments here. I think I can still do that. Let me get out this screen I'm in here. All right, there we go. So, well, I mean, what's up, Juice? What's up? The juice is loose. Yeah, so, I was making sure this time that they was going to hear me on that mic, man, because I wanted to make sure that we didn't have no issues. So I got 2 or 3 different mics turned on at the same time. I didn't care if it was going to echo or what. I wanted to make sure that everybody was able to get the information. So yeah, it's really going to be something to see that many dispensaries being added. I mean, I can't wait to see another 70 dispensaries. I had to make him say it again because I wanted to make sure I heard it right. So hopefully everything will go through. As you also heard him say, this is still in kind of its process, so it's not all the way completed yet. And so we'll just have to keep staying on them to make sure that the process goes through completed this time. And I also, as you heard, I will be following up again shortly with them about the other rules that I asked about before. So that's what I'm gonna do. And like I said, I'll see you guys at the meeting on Saturday. I'll see you guys on 420 Live on Friday, and I'll see some of you guys at Ohio Cannabis Brothers on Thursday. Or maybe I won't, because there's something special going on Thursday. So maybe you'll have to stay tuned for that. We'll see how everything goes. So yeah, I've got to call my doctor back because my doctor was calling me during the broadcast, during that question part, and I couldn't miss it. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.